don't want people sitting in a lesson or in a practice room banging their head against the wall. Why do that?
This is Ben Wright, second trumpet with the Boston Symphony Orchestra, trumpet teacher at the New England Conservatory of Music, and curator of the Sound Truth Library. As you can hear, he is very passionate about education, specifically trumpet education. You might be wondering, what would the reason possibly be for people to be banging their head against the wall in the practice room?
So there's all kinds of great recordings of the world's best players playing in these boomy concert halls by themselves. Well, that's great. And I spent a lot of time imitating my teachers, predominantly Mike Sachs, because he's who I studied with undergraduate. And I would imitate what I heard in Severance Hall, sitting in the back. That's not what you should be imitating.
I completely agree with Ben on this. Each individual performance space is going to have its own unique qualities and acoustics. For example, Symphony Hall, where Ben performs with the Boston Symphony, is an incredibly reverberant hall. Symphony Center, however, where the Chicago Symphony plays, is a much drier space. The way you're playing trumpet on stage is going to change quite a bit by the time it reaches the audience, depending on what hall you're in. So if we're not supposed to imitate the sound we hear in the hall, what are we supposed to imitate then?
You have to imitate what you hear in the room, because that's what we're really doing on stage.
To help trumpet players better understand what professional orchestral trumpet players sound like on stage, Ben devoted himself to creating his Sound Truth Library.
The reason why I call it the Sound Truth Library is I recorded it with the microphone 18 inches from my bell. I measured it once. The idea was, you're practicing something at home, you need to hear how that thing is supposed to sound. Boom, you just go to one of the 220 videos in my library, you press play and you listen to it.
As we take a look at the Sound Truth Library, we will find a huge amount of material. There are videos covering fundamentals.
There's a whole fundamental section covering Arban, Schlossberg, Clark, and it's not one big video, it's separate videos, right? So you just go through and it goes through the book. Hey, here's page whatever. This is how I play at page 18 in the Arban book. This is why I do it this way, and this is what it sounds like.
There are also countless videos of excerpt demonstrations, and one of my favorite sections in his library is what Ben calls Symphony Stage.
There's a very large section of things where you play along with me. Do you not know how to play in the classical style, like the huge proportion of even really good trumpet players, young trumpet players, Beethoven, Brahms? You can play along with me playing Brahms 2, Beethoven 5, later pieces, Tillon-Spiegel, Shostakovich 5. You can take any part and you just play along with it, right? So you get the style, right? It's pretty cool.
For all the naysayers out there who think that learning orchestral style can't be done over video and that it's just always going to be better to sit next to somebody and learn in person, Ben has something to say.
Is it as good as sitting in the room with me or some other teacher who has a job like me or plays like me or whatever? No. But is it a really good practice aid? Yeah, it's phenomenal practice aid. I would have killed for that. To be able to hear Mike Sachs play in my lesson, like that was like solid gold. Like that's all I wanted. Like, oh, just please play today. But he's a principal trumpet player. He can't play in every lesson. So that's why I did this. It's like, okay, this is a resource.
I don't know about you, but this sounds all pretty amazing to me. One question that you might have left is, well, how much does this cost?
There's 20 hours of material, and it's $79.
In my opinion, this resource isn't going to just be for people who are pursuing an orchestral path. Sure, Ben's orchestral experience will be a huge asset to people who want to pursue that, but in general, anyone who wants to get better at the trumpet can definitely benefit from Ben's thoughts and his experience as a trumpet player in general. I think it's worth saying at this point that Ben has not paid me any amount of money to say these things in this video. I interviewed him on my podcast a little while back where you saw these clips from, and he showed me the library. It looked really interesting, and so I checked it out. What I found when I got in there was, again, as you heard, all of these amazing videos, and I was really drawn to the Symphony Stage series because the idea of playing with Ben and trying to keep up with what he's doing sounded cool to me, so I thought I would check it out. I ended up settling on playing Don Quixote. It's kind of a very technical, aggressive, energetic lick. In that piece, I chose the recording where I was gonna play first, and I was playing with Ben's recording of him playing second and third. This is what that recording sounds like.
1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4.
After I finished that recording, I put it all together in my editing software and I sent it to Ben. I figured Ben was just gonna say, sounds great, but instead he actually offered to provide a few comments on my recording. A few minutes later, Ben sent me a link to a feedback video he made with a program I had never heard of called Loom. It's pretty amazing. Here's a little bit of that video.
Okay, so sounds good, really good. There's some places where you don't match what I'm doing, which you probably already hear, but I'll just go through it and just tell you what I notice. Right, so the high B flat and the F, you have to come up to match me. So the first thing I would say is just push your slide in a smidge, because I think generally you're just a little bit low to me. So there it sounds a little behind to me. Just a smidge behind. And then generally, like, I'd say, like, to try to find that singing quality in your sound in the loud. It should be strong, for sure, but it doesn't, I think it should sing a little bit more. It's possible I'm just hearing that because it's a little low. Yeah. So does that note, does that note go forward, or is it static? Because it sounds a little static. Or maybe does it go dee, ya da 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 dee dum? Yeah. Dee da 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 da. I would keep it going. I would just be more assertive, like be more effusive, like just let it fly a little bit more.
After digesting his comments, I went back to the drawing board and tried to practice and work those in, and then I made a second recording to see if I could get a little bit more of what he was asking for in my recording. This process that I went through is how I see the value of the Symphony Stage series and really the whole Sound Truth library overall. What it is not is a one-stop shop, quick fix, listen to Ben and everything is fine kind of resource.
Especially if you're using it like I suggest, where you're listening to examples, it might take a while to get your Alpine Symphony up to as well as what I'm doing. It's hard, right? It's challenging, right? So just go back and listen to it again. And that's the idea of like, okay, a year long, take a year, use this as a practice aid. You can pull it up on your phone, you can pull it up on your tablet, whatever, any place you have an internet connection. You just need the interweb. If
you take the $79 price tag and you divide it by the 20 hours of video footage that are in this library, it comes out to 6.5 cents per minute, which is just an incredible deal for any serious trumpet student. With Ben's Sound Truth library, we now have a resource where we can listen to a high-level orchestral player in the practice room and begin to try to imitate what he sounds like in that environment. But do you know how to practice like an orchestral trumpet player? If you don't, I'm going to leave a link on the screen and you can check that out. We'll see you in the next video.